You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible.
We often have talked about housing discrimination. This, of course, Fair Housing Act was signed in 1968. And you hear people say, oh, my goodness, racism has gone away. But guess what? Newsday did an investigation that revealed extreme racism taking place by real estate agents on Long Island. They found widespread, separate, and unequal treatment of minority potential home buyers in minority communities. 240 hours of secretly recorded meetings found that Asians were discriminated against 19% of the time, Latinos 39% of the time, African Americans 49% of the time. Here is one of the secret meetings.
I don't know about that. I have to get used to about that because I've been running like a dog.
I know. So I really need that. I won't take out any money unless you have a pre-qualification letter. So I need to know that you're pre-qualified for a mortgage.
Oh, so that means I can't go out to see anything.
I won't do it. You can try another person, but I don't have the time to do that.
Good. I'm just going to take some notes and introduce you to signature.
What is your availability? When can you start looking at houses?
I would say not this coming week, but the following week.
Okay. So today is, let's set up our first appointment. I will send you listings this afternoon.
Keith Herbert is investigative reporter for Newsday, participated in this. Keith, this is stunning to people who are delusional in thinking that racism somehow was eradicated in the housing industry.
Roland, how you doing? Good to be with you. The results, speak for themselves. The numbers that you indicate are what we found after doing more than 100 tests. We counted 86 of them, and what you see in those numbers are exactly what we found. The video clip you showed is an example of us trying to be as transparent as possible so that the test results that we found can be examined by anyone who wanted to look at Newsday's website and see exactly what occurred between the tester and the agent.
And to look at those numbers, to see that African Americans face the most discrimination, really makes it plain that the reality of black folks, and what people have to understand, is that housing is where most Americans are able to build their wealth. So black people, by being discriminated against when it comes to buying a home, that is impacting the economics and the future wealth of those black families and their children and their children's children.
That's true. We found that as well here in our investigation. One of the things we found was that if you looked at in a particular neighborhood where an African American would typically get a home, compared with an area next door here on Long Island where a white person might end up. When you look at the difference in appreciation rate between 1990 and 2017, over those years, that amount of money adds up to $50,000. So it definitely has an impact that, makes a difference in people's lives. When you think about your home is, probably the biggest investment that you have, the biggest asset. So the practices that we were able to uncover in the parent disparate treatment has an impact, like you said, down the line for perhaps generations.
First of all, how expansive was your team? How many people did you send out? How many people did you eventually talk to and come across?
We engaged 26 testers to do matched parent testing. So we sent in one tester black or white or Asian, mostly people of color that were matched with a white tester. And we did 86 of those that we counted. So matched pairs would give us results based upon how the real estate agents treated one side of the test compared to the other side of the test. And the video clip that you showed allowed us to make transcripts to compare exactly what happened on one side to the other side. As part of the investigation, we collected over 5,700 listings. The real estate listings allowed us to get the address of where the homes, the agents, where they suggested that the white tester look at a house and where the minority tester look at a house. And once we plotted those into census tracts, we started to see patterns where the neighborhoods that the minority testers were getting tended to be more diverse than the neighborhood that the white testers were getting. And you gave a good summary of the numbers of the findings there. But indeed, African Americans suffered most of the disparate treatment that we uncovered in this investigation.
Were people on your team, were your editors shocked with what they discovered? Were there people who believed that this stuff really did exist? And how did this series, this expose even originate? Was it based upon a complaint? How did it all start off?
Well, it started obviously more than 3 years ago when the owner of Newsday, Patrick Dolan, apparently had a conversation or lunch with one of the people who works in the fair housing field here on Long Island, who indicated to him that there apparently is a problem with real estate agents providing fair and equal service to all their customers in the community. And, you know, keep in mind that we're here on Long Island, which is one of the most segregated metropolitan areas in the country. So as far as being shocked, you know, it depends on who you talk to. Members of the staff here at Newsday who happen to be people of color didn't seem to be too shocked by what they saw, which you can imagine, because many of them have stories about either being steered to a particular neighborhood or treated unfairly in their own housing search.
This is, of course, again, a stunning expose. We certainly appreciate your work and the work of the Newsday staff. This is also why investigative reporting is important. This is why local newspapers matter. And so I would certainly hope folks there in New York will be very supportive of Newsday and what y'all are doing there. Where can folks see the full report?
Your question,
Keith, where can folks see the full report?
Oh, yeah. Go to newsday.com, all right? And what you get a link. You get a link there to take you to all the stories. There's an excellent documentary on there. It's long. It's 40 minutes, but it's worth every minute of it. I advise everyone take a look at the documentary, which really does a good job of encapsulating the entire story. But, you know, read the stories, too. There are plenty of them to read. Each one details exactly what happened in each individual test.
All right, Keith Herbert, we appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Kelly, the point there when you talk about the places where Black people are being pushed to live, losing out on upwards of $50,000 when it comes to reselling. That is how redlining impacted Black people. That's how federal housing policies impacted Black people. And for people who have this silly notion that these things don't exist, it is still existing in 2019, meaning Black folks are being cheated out of being able to create wealth because of the color of their skin.
But it's not just housing, right? I mean, almost every aspect of living in America has been radically racialized. Housing is no different. It is unfortunate that this is still going on. I live in D.C., and you kind of see the effects of policies like this every day, especially with the gentrification going on in the Southeast, all four quadrants, really. And just seeing people just lose their homes or not being able to get the homes that they want because of real estate agents like this. It's absolutely disgusting. It's happening all over the country, and you can see the evidence of that by the way who's buying houses, who's losing homes, how wealth is growing in this country or isn't growing in this country. I am very anxious to see the full report. That'll be something I do when I get home tonight. But from what I just heard, it's just really sad because there should be no reason for it. There is no real reason for us to not be where we need to be just in order to live.
This shouldn't surprise anyone, and it's interesting if we think about the crash of 2008, 2009. If we actually think about that, the number, we were talking then about the housing crisis, we were talking the foreclosure crisis, we were talking about predatory lending that largely affected Black and brown people. So here we are so many years later still talking about an instance that's kind of closer to home in New York City of all places, not in Mississippi, not in Texas, not in Alabama, Louisiana. We're talking about Long Island in New York. So this really isn't surprising, but I like with Kelly, I actually look forward to seeing the full report. But whatever they can do to remedy the situation, in New York, they need to put pressure on Cuomo. They need to put pressure on, the mayor of Long Island. I don't know exactly who that is, but they need to put pressure on those politicians, and they need activists out there who are engaged on these sort of issues to make sure that we're not continuing to get shorted when it comes to issues like fair housing. Whatever violations, the federal government needs to take over in that.
But Teresa, the real pressure needs to be on the Department of Housing and Urban Development, because they are the ones who should be sending in testers. They're the ones who should be eradicating. This is a violation of the Fair Housing Act. That's what this is. The onus should not be on a newspaper to do the work of HUD.
I agree. And Secretary Ben Carson, is he still over HUD?
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? You never know, but officially, yes.
Yes, he is.
He is, for now.
Good. Okay. So him and the rest of his bureau directors need to really go in there and analyze and take some of that budget, really get into those communities, really contact those elected officials, and let them know that there is a plan and a budget to be put in place if they really want to combat that. If the Trump administration wanted to do anything to kind of, start to change the narrative outside of what it is now with these impeachment hearings, this is something that they can absolutely do. And this will get the attention of media. But I will hope more so it starts to change some of the perceptions, not only in Long Island, but in other states that, going on across the country.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, as the marijuana momentum continues, our friends at marijuanastock.org have already reached more than half of their funding goal for the hemp CBD investment. That's right. If you want to take advantage of this great opportunity, you need to do it now because it won't last much longer. If you don't know, I'm talking about the hemp plant, the good cousin to marijuana with a much higher concentration of CBD. That means hemp gives you all the medical benefits of marijuana without getting you high. Now, if you don't know, hemp farming is now legal in the United States, creating one of the largest commodities worldwide. It is an investment opportunity, and that's where the folks at 420 Real Estate come in. Their business model is simple. They buy land that supports hemp CBD grow operations and lease it to licensed, high-paying tenants. That's right, they are hemp CBD landlords. You can get in on the action. As hemp continues to change the economic landscape, 420 Real Estate is allowing you to chase the American dream. The best part, you can invest in this crowdfunding campaign for as little as $200. That's right, $200 up to $10,000. Now, you must do it now before the fund is closed. To invest, go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org. Get in the game and get in the game now. Back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video.